out here,
Oh man.
it may convince you to move. I'm just saying. But the biggest difference for me was getting used to the elevation.
Right.
When I first came out here, it's a little bit harder to breathe. Normal things that, back in Ohio weren't a big deal. I could do them and not be out of breath. Here, you kind of take a second and go, whew, that's kind of tough. And I've just started getting into mountain hunting. So I did my first turkey season this year. I was unsuccessful. I heard a few birds, but I didn't get a chance to shoot any. But I had to hike, a couple thousand vertical feet to get into the turkey range, and that is a wild experience. Waking up at 3:30 in the morning to give yourself a couple of hours to hike up a mountain just to shoot a bird.
I mean, I will say that's quite a bit different than waking up at 4:30 at your house and driving 10 minutes to the field you're going to hunt in, or walking up one ridge line. That's a little different.
And you're talking about ridge lines. You may climb 300-400 vertical feet.
A couple 100 feet.
Yeah. The place I was hunting at, the elevation was 7,800 feet. Yeah, my house is at 49.
Wow.
So big difference. Also, I'm a little bit dismayed that I have to relearn everything I thought I knew about fishing, because out here, all of our rivers and streams, or creeks, whatever you want to call them, are nothing like the ones back in Ohio. They're all these mountain glacier fed streams that are all boulders. They're fast moving. They raise and lower very quickly. And then you've got these gigantic reservoirs that are the main source of fishing. If you're talking about walleye, sauger, striper, bass, they don't catch those out of the streams around here. That's a lake thing, and the lakes are huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, me kayaking, I've got to relearn everything. I can't just drop my kayak into Little Soda anymore.
Yeah, I mean, out there, is there really a moving body of water that is really comfortable to kayak?
I haven't found one yet. Now, there are people that kayak them, but they're in their more of a whitewater style kayak.
Yeah, you can't
Smaller.
really fish from one of those.
No, I don't even think I could really fit in one. I'm too fat.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
No. So that's been it's a hard thing for me to grasp, because I don't have a paint creek out here.
Right.
We haven't talked about the different bodies of water we like to paddle in yet, but Paint Creek was the mecca for me. That was the place that I looked forward to every year to fish.
Right.
Because I could spend 8 hours on the water, and I knew I was going to catch smallmouth, largemouth, sauger, saugeye, crappie, bluegill, and anything in between. I knew it was going to happen.
Right.
And out here, I just don't have that yet.
Right. Unfortunately, we never got to kayak Paint Creek together. For whatever reason, towards the end, before you made the big move, we could never get our schedules to line up, and that's definitely a thing that I regret. New bodies of water, especially here, is always something that I look for, and Paint Creek is one that I was really excited to be able to hit with somebody that knew it, knew what to look for, knew where to go, knew what we were getting into. That's even if I'm comfortable with a type of body of water. Because here, in southern Ohio, we've got lakes, creeks, and rivers. That's what you have. And the majority of the lakes are the same. They're old valleys that were dammed up in the early between the 1920s and the 1950s and allowed to fill with water. And so most of them aren't very deep. There's a lot of plant matter in them, and they get warm and full of lily pads really fast. And the creeks are all pretty well the same kind of creek as well. You've got a difference of rock bottom and mud bottom. And that's it. But there is a certain trepidation or apprehension that I feel when approaching a new body of water, even though I've paddled the Little Scioto, Brush Creek, and
The
the
Big
Big
Soda.
Scioto. Thinking about going to Paint Creek or thinking about going to Ohio Brush Creek is an exciting but slightly off-putting feeling for me because you never know what you're going to run into on the water.
Well, I mean, I don't want to scare you, but every time that I have went to Paint Creek and taken other people there, someone has flipped. So
Bear that in mind.
yeah. Now, granted, the first two times was Leah, and that was just inexperience and
Right.
not knowing the body of water. The other time was negligence on the part of a couple of brothers. I let them borrow my canoe. Well, the guy on the back of the canoe usually does the steering. And in this instance, the guy on the back was fishing. And they were coming to a little swift part of the creek, and there was a stump sticking out of the water about, I don't know, 18 inches. Plenty of room on either side, but the current naturally took you there. It's where it wanted to take you.
Right.
So I go through first, then I beach my kayak and turn around to make sure no one hits the stump. Well, about the time I'm turning around, I look over to see my 16-foot red canoe, the nose of it going up this log, and the guy on the front gripping the sides going, son of a bitch, and flips over. How they had the whole bottom of that canoe filled with stuff. I'm talking tackle boxes, pliers, fishing rods, hats, glasses, everything you could think of. The only thing they lost was a pair of sunglasses.
Wow.
How they did that, I don't know. Yeah, but I'll never forget. It looked like the Titanic sinking. It was glorious. But I remember you talking about how scared you were going to the Big Soda River the very first time you went.
Well, a lot of that, to be honest, comes from my dad. And for those of you that don't know my dad, he's a worrywart. I remember when I was a young kid, um, I was taken with water and going fishing and that excitement. And we lived less than 100 yards from a small creek. Um, and I don't even think technical terms you could call it a creek. At most, it was a brook.
Yeah, it was a drainage ditch.
Yeah, it was a little more than that, but not much. Um, you basically you would have had to try real hard to get wet above your ankles, and my dad instilled from a young age a pretty healthy fear of moving water in me, and I remember I went between the ages of 10 and 14. I went to my cousins in Tennessee, and there was local waterways there, and we walked across a river. I don't remember the name of it but we walked across, and the water was at the deepest part, hip deep. And I came home and I told my dad about it, and I was pumped. I was like, "Oh my God, Dad! I walked across the river, and the water was hip deep. I wonder if there are places in the Scioto River that you can do that." And he told me, he said, "You absolutely cannot do that in the Scioto River. There is brush, there are sinkholes. You'll get stuck and you'll drown. You'll disappear. Nobody will know what happened to you. You can't do it." So, the first time that I finally worked up the courage to go to the Scioto River, which on a completely different note was something that until I did it, I don't know that you had ever.
I never have to this day. I still haven't.
Yeah, and really nobody in this area thinks about it because
Really? That's a lie. Me and Mike Johnson did it.
you did. That's right.
Yep.
So I didn't know what I was in for. I didn't know what I was going to catch. I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was all an unknown. The only thing that I knew is that I was going to put a boat in the water, and I was going to paddle and do everything I could to stay as dry as possible and catch as many fish of whatever kind I could catch. And the majority of what I caught were sheephead.
Garbage fish.
And there's a story about sheephead. I don't know if Zach wants to get into it on an episode about kayaking, but there's a story about him.
You know what? Heck, we might as well. You tried to kill me. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. It's your story. You're
the story about sheephead. There's a portion of the Little Scioto River that we talked about kayaking that makes for a very relaxing but action-packed wade trip.
Wade trips, by the way, are just when you walk in with your shoes and shorts and you just walk.
Oh, yeah, I guess I talk about it as if everybody should know, because they should.
Next to kayaking, it's the most enjoyable form of fishing.
I think they're tied.
Oh, really?
And the reason is when you're wading, or when I'm wading, there's you remove the boat that keeps you from being directly in contact with nature. I don't know, it may make me a crazy person, but there's nothing more relaxing than standing in hip deep water in just a pair of shorts, not waders, not boots, nothing special, shorts and an old ratty pair of tennis shoes that I don't have to worry about tearing up or getting dirty. And feeling the water, as goofy as it sounds, feeling the current move in the hairs on my leg, and seeing the minnows and the critters all around you.
It is very satisfying. I don't want to take anything away from it.
So I think that's why it's tied for me. There's not a way that I've been able to feel more connected and grounded in nature than when I'm wade fishing. So
as we're grounded in a hip deep body of water, Sean shows up to fish. I'm using a fly rod, by the way, a big 9-foot fly rod. I'm trying to catch a carp. It's something I've never done. I wanted to do it. Continue.
And I show up. I meet Zach. I wade out into the water, and we're fishing. And we look over our shoulders, and on the horizon, there's a thunderstorm. We can see the lightning. We can hear the thunder right above our heads. I don't know, 100, 150 feet above us are the large carrier electric lines. You know, the ones you see them with the big T-pose metal poles that carry the electric for whole areas, So that's right above us. There's a thunderstorm coming right down the Little Scioto River at us.
And I'm holding
deep in water. Zach's holding a fly rod. I've got a Zebco 11 micro rod and reel. And Zach says,